Good evening and welcome to another edition of our news programme. What a week it's been. We've obviously seen the inauguration of the President of the United States of America this week. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. There he is. He's an American politician who's now the 46th President of the United States of America. A member of the Democratic Party, he served as the 47th Vice President from 2009 to 2017 and has represented Delaware in the United States Senate from 1973 to 2009, so a very experienced politician. I find it quite surreal how things have changed this week. An almost immediate sense of calm and order in the United States of America after a period of intense press coverage, instability, false news and rhetoric. I'm sure that President Biden, although he seems intent on uniting all Americans and working for all Americans, will not be everyone's cup of tea. He certainly seems to have started off in a very inclusive way, trying to emphasise that he will do the best for everyone. We obviously wish him well, and we will watch with interest over the months ahead as his presidency starts. Turning to home, we've got the latest statistics on the coronavirus situation out. They were published yesterday, the 22nd of January. In Dorset, there were 1,175 cases in the last 7 days, compared to 1,261 in the previous 7 days. So the number of cases has gone down slightly. However, the number of patients in hospital beds in Dorset has gone up to 552 from 452 in the previous update. Hospital admissions have continued to increase across the whole of the Dorset, Bournemouth and Poole areas, and NHS services are experiencing unprecedented and extreme levels of demand. There are now more than 4 times as many COVID patients in Dorset hospitals than there were at the peak of the first wave in April. Sadly, we are also seeing COVID-related deaths continuing to rise, and if we listen to the scientists, we can expect that to happen for at least another 2 weeks if the current strategies on lockdown continue to work. There have been several deaths reported in our community this week, and sadly it does include young people as well as those towards the end of their life. I think there's a big message to get out there that coronavirus affects everyone, because I think certain sectors of the community think they are immune from it. We've also heard this week of patients being moved to the Nightingale Hospital in Exeter in quite a few numbers, as our Dorset hospitals are stretched to the limit. And we've also heard of military help in our hospitals locally. However, on a positive note, we can report that up to the 17th of January, and that's the last figures I have available, 68,693 doses of the COVID-19 vaccination, or of the COVID-19 vaccinations, have been administered to people across Dorset. And we know that we've got more vaccination points open now, and a big regional centre at the BIC in Bournemouth that I know people from Weymouth are starting to be called to attend for appointments there as well. The public health and NHS message to the people of White Regis and the wider Dorset is obviously quite simple, though. If you get asked to go for a test, please, if you get the letter, please ring up and make a booking, and just make sure you get that done as soon as possible. And of course, if you develop any symptoms, please ring up and book yourself a test. And when we're out, wear a mask if we're with people, keep your distance, and wash your hands. We will be returning to the coronavirus story later in today's programme. On something completely different, let's turn to the weather. Snow could fall in Dorset this weekend, as weather warnings of ice and snow have been issued for the area. 2 yellow weather warnings for snow have been issued for the southwest of England, covering this weekend, including Weymouth, White Regis and Portland on the south coast of Dorset. The highest risk time seems to be between about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning and 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. So you could wake up tomorrow morning with a covering of snow. The Met Office has warned that the conditions could cause travel disruption and icy patches on some untreated roads, pavements and cycle paths. So if you're going out, be very, very careful. A spokesman for the Met Office said an area of rain will cross the west and southwest of the country on Sunday morning and turn readily to snow as it spreads eastward, which will also lead to some icy surfaces. They are expecting that most areas will get 1 to 3 centimetres of snow. Some areas will get 5 to 10 centimetres of snow, and areas over 100 metres from sea level may get 10 to 15 centimetres of snow. Snow always causes a lot of disruption in the UK because we're not used to it. If we were elsewhere in the world or on the continent or in the USA, we would be used to dealing with snow every year. So watch the weather, and if you need to go out, go careful. This week, a historic site has been closed to the public. Several cracks have appeared in the historic Sanskrit Castle in Weymouth. It's thought that these have occurred due to the continual erosion of the cliffs. The castle has now been closed to public access and it's been fenced off by Dorset Council, and Dorset Council will be working with Historic England to see that works can be done to make the site safe and obviously to preserve the castle. We will hear more about Sanskrit Castle later in tonight's programme. The NHS Blood and Transfusion Service is urging people in Dorset that have had the coronavirus and are hitting the 28-day recovery mark to consider registering as plasma donors. The antibody-rich plasma of people who've had COVID might save the lives of people who struggle to develop their own immune response to the virus. People can only donate 28 days after they've recovered. So the number of potential donors is now at the highest ever because of the rates of virus and people obviously being in hospital. More than 3,000 people have already registered to donate at the Poole Donation Centre. So our nearest centre is Poole in Dorset. Professor Dave Roberts, who's the Associate Medical Director for Blood Donation, said, "More people than ever can help. Now is the time to donate. We especially need donations from people in Dorset who've had hospital care. Men who've had hospital care are around 6 times more likely to have high antibody levels, which might save lives. So if you're male, if you've had coronavirus, if you've been hospitalised, definitely the NHS Blood and Transfusion Service wants to hear from you and would really urge you strongly to help by donating your plasma." The service is also collecting plasma for new trials for older people or those with cancer to treat them in the early course of infection. They're hoping that by giving them plasma, it will stop the illness developing to serious levels. More than 220 donations have been taken at the Poole Donor Centre so far. Professor Roberts says we've completed 2 trials and analysis is ongoing. We now need to collect plasma for further planned clinical studies. We're particularly looking at high-risk groups such as the elderly people and people with cancer. Donations are vital for the ongoing research as well as treatment of patients at the current time. Nationally, more than 300,000 people have offered to donate, and so far more than 60,000 donations have been collected. If you're interested, if you want to register, just search for NHS Blood and Transfusion Service and find their website, and you are able to register on their website. Are you a keen walker? Diverse Abilities, in partnership with Charity Challenge, has launched its Dorset 3 Peaks Challenge for 2021. Taking place on Saturday, June the 19th, participants trek across the Wessex Ridgeway to raise funds for Dorset Disability Charity. Participants will ascend the top of Lewsden Hill, Pilsden Pen and Bullbarrow Hill on Saturday, June the 19th, summiting an accumulative height of 1,530 metres, which is taller than Ben Nevis, and covering a marathon distance of 26.2 miles across the Ridgeway. Simon Albert, director of Charity Challenge, commented, "At the moment, people can really want something to look forward to get fit, to focus on during the restrictions. And this helps tick all those boxes. It's good for people's health and well-being to get fresh air, stay in shape and do something positive for others." Starting from Gloucester Football Ground, the challenge is completely unique and provides spectacular views across Dorset countryside. Everyone should arrive with a sense of adventure as the route uses country lanes and some less well-known footpaths to reach the goal. If you want to register, you can go along to the Diverse Abilities website at www.diverseabilities.org.uk/D3P, so that's Dorset Three Peaks, for more information to register. They are asking everybody to commit to raise, I think it's £270 worth of funds for the charity, and there is a registration fee of £35, which will get you all the bits you need to take part in that challenge. Officers from Dorset Police are investigating a serious injury collision in Weymouth and are appealing for witnesses or anyone with relevant car dash cam footage to come forward. An investigation is underway into a collision that occurred at around 8 p.m. on Monday the 18th of January on Chafee's roundabout, involving a blue Nissan GTR and a silver BMW car. Officers attended the scene of the collision along with the ambulance service and the fire service, who assisted in removing two females from the BMW. The women were taken to hospital with injuries that were believed to be serious but not life-threatening. Anyone with information is asked to contact Dorset Police at www.dorset.police.uk or to phone them via 101, or if you wish to contact them anonymously through Crime Stoppers on free phone 0800 555 111. So that's the headlines for this week. This week, for our first story, I thought we would catch up on how those are doing with our lockdown walk to see how they're progressing and how far they've got. You'll remember that they are doing a virtual walk from Land's End to John O'Groats, stopping off along the way to visit places of interest. Each person reports in their weekly walking miles, and these are plotted on a map. So let's see how our intrepid walkers have done this week.
Hello, it's time for an update on our walk from Land's End to John O'Groats. On Sunday, 2 new people joined our team, Linda Perry and Jenny Hind. So when we left Edge, we went into Gloucester to have a look at the cathedral. Gloucester Cathedral is one of the great medieval religious buildings of England, noted for its grand Gothic architecture and the 225-foot-high central tower that can be seen all across the city centre. Its full name is the Cathedral Church of St. Peter and the Holy and Indivisible Trinity. And while the earliest parts of the present building date from the late 11th century, a church has existed on this site since around 679. The cathedral building in its present form has remained largely unchanged since the mid-14th century. Sadly, it was closed at the moment, but we vowed to come back and see it when it was open again. We wanted to see the cloisters with their amazing vaulted ceilings. They've become quite well known recently for their appearances in Harry Potter films. The square garden at the centre of the cloisters is a lovely place to be. It includes a fountain, a well and floral beds, and has benches from which to admire the view of the turreted tower rising above. However, we still had a long way to go, so sadly we left Gloucester and went off on our way. We have had a lot of trouble with the weather this week, with Storm Christoph raging away. Fortunately, our team included brownies, scouters and nannies, so we were well prepared. Angela even had a canoe in her backpack. So you'll now be wanting to know how far did we get this week. So here is Jeff Rivers' report. In Scotland already? Not bad considering the weather we've had to put up with. I'll see you next week for a report on week 3 of our walk. Bye for now.
Thank you there to Janet and to Jeff for his graphics on that report. And it doesn't look like it's going to take them too long to get to John O'Groats, does it, at this rate? The other interesting thing, of course, Janet said that the cathedral, Gloucester, was closed, but of course many of our cathedrals across the UK at the current time are actually helping with the NHS vaccination effort. I know our cathedral at Salisbury is open. The cathedrals are ideally suited to help with their covered cloisters, which is obviously a good place to queue, and with large airy buildings, which means that lots of people can get inside safely to get their vaccination. So it's nice to see that cathedrals across the country are helping with that effort. So I'm not sure whether Gloucester is one of them, but maybe we can find out before next week. Our next story this week is about 2021 being a special year. Did you know that 2021 was a special year? Something happened this year in March that only happens every 10 years. I expect you're thinking it's some sort of international conference, some massive sports competition, or even an astrological event like an eclipse. But I'm sorry to disappoint you. It's the national census. I know for most of you, you'll be thinking it's unnecessary bureaucracy or the government poking its nose into our business and counting what we do and who we are and how old we are and what health conditions we've got, etc. But what is it really all about?
Households across Dorset will soon be asked to take part in the 2021 census. The census is a once-in-a-decade survey that gives the most accurate estimate of all the people and households in England and Wales. It has been carried out every 10 years since 1801, with the exception of 1941. It will be run predominantly online, with all Dorset households receiving a letter in late February with a unique access code, allowing them to complete the questionnaire on their computers, phones or tablet devices. Census 2021 will give fresh information to improve our understanding of the pandemic. It will also help to make sure that the services the community use and what will be needed to meet the needs of our changing society. This could include hospitals, schools, universities and job centres. Census Day is Sunday the 21st of March 2021. Census is particularly important to ensure that our young people and young adults have the services they require in the future. Young people are particularly difficult to engage in the census, so the National Census team are issuing a number of explanatory videos. These videos are a great explanation of census and what it is for.
The census. Ever heard of it? Well, if you don't know about it yet, you will soon. It's a survey that happens once every 10 years. It's been happening for over 200 years. It gives us a really useful picture of all the people and households in England and Wales. I guess you could say it's a unique snapshot of who we are. And it's a chance for young people to think hard about what matters most to us, our families and friends, and to our communities.
It was such a relief when my best mate got home. The GP was so quick to spot signs of appendicitis.
I've always loved playing steel drums at the community carnival. I might even choose GCSE music now.
Dad's been going to these English lessons locally, so I don't have to interpret so much now. And he's even signed up for ICT classes because he's applying for jobs.
I can box every weekend at our local youth club. I can't imagine what I'd do without it. Probably be really bored and frustrated.
I was so pleased when they started using those electric hybrid buses in my area. They're so much better for the environment.
Grandad loves those special books from the library. You know, the ones with the really big writing.
The toddler playgroup in the park means so much to my mum and my little sister.
The thing is, taking part in the census really counts, you know? It's important, right? Because the information it provides can help the government, charities and businesses make decisions about planning and funding local services. So, how do you think the census could impact the things that matter for your future?
After Census Day, at the end of March and into April, Dorset Census field officers will be visiting households from which they have not received a completed census form. They will encourage people to complete the census and help you to access further help if you need it. The field officers will be working in the same way as a postal or food delivery visit. They will be wearing personal protective equipment and working in line with government guidance. The field officers will never need to enter your house. Maybe you are looking for something to do in early 2021. If so, the National Census team rely on 30,000 people to work as field officers across the country. If this may be of interest to you, there is more information on their website at www.census.gov.uk. Agnes was involved in the last census in 2011 as a coordinator for field officers. She is going to tell us what it was like to be involved in the census.
My name is Agnes. I worked as a census coordinator in 2011 and it was an exciting project. It was a huge project. I was responsible for North Barnsbury, which is in Islington, London, and it is a vibrant, diverse area. We have a big Turkish community and Eritrean community, and then there's also a mix of people from all over the world. The average person on the street does not know anything about government policies and town planning and all that. Quite often people just think, oh well, I've given birth to a child, the child will be registered with a GP, the child will go to school. They don't really see what's behind all that information for that child to be allocated a place at a school. It depends on demand or how many children are born in the area. All that information that's fed through government bodies that connect, like schools, hospitals, GPs, they all interlink somehow on population data. My role as a coordinator was, in the morning, I would check my emails, and we all had phones from ONS, which we could use for work, but anytime from 8 a.m., anyone can ring me with any issues. For example, one team member lost his ID, and you cannot go door knocking without your ID because they don't know who you are. And I had to coordinate that and report it as lost. And obviously we reported with the police, reported with my line manager, and reported at the headquarters. And they sent him another one within 2 or 3 days, 3 working days, which was quite rapid. Every day will be different. There will be other challenges, and I'll be getting phone calls. For example, I got a phone call from a chiropodist. They said, "Oh, we got a form for a residential to complete. We're a business." I had to go and pick up the phone and make it a void. And little things like that. But otherwise, I was available to support my collectors.
Dorset Council's digital hotline is also offering support to people who may wish to get online for the first time to complete the census. The group of volunteer digital champions can be reached by telephone on 01305 221048, Monday to Fridays, from 10 a.m. to midday, except bank holidays when they are closed. A census field team will follow up with households who have not completed their questionnaire after Census Day. The results from Census 2021 will be available within 12 months, although personal records will be locked away for 100 years, and will be kept safe for future generations.
I count.
1, 2,
I count.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I still count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
When it comes to getting our fair share of services, like healthcare, transport, housing and education, the census really counts. And what makes the census count is all of us.
So there we go, that's the national census done once every 10 years that is coming up, and Census Day is the 21st of March 2021. We will be covering that again nearer the time, but that was just to give you forewarning. And as it said throughout those videos, the information collected in Census is very useful for local and national government in planning how many hospitals need to be built, how many doctors' surgeries need to be built, what school places are likely to be needed in 5, 10, 15 years' time. Without that data, then governments and local authorities can't plan for anything. So it's important that we all take part so the information is useful. Our next story this evening is to do with Sanskrit Castle. We mentioned that in the headlines, that it's been closed off to the public this week. So it's an important historic building and it's been there for hundreds of years. And I thought, as it hit the headlines this week, and perhaps it's not a place that we think of often, although it's in the heart of our community, that I would pay it a visit to learn a little bit about the castle and its history, and secondly to see what is going on there. So I've been off to the castle today to pay it a visit. Sanskrit Castle, or Weymouth Castle, was completed about 1539 on the order of King Henry VIII to provide, in conjunction with Portland Castle, a defence for the shipping in the safe anchorage of Portland Roads, known also now as Portland Harbour. It had 2 stories and dungeons, providing an emplacement for heavy cannon, powder magazines and quarters for about 50 men. It was protected by a ditch and an earth rampart, remains of which can still be seen today. Evidence suggests that some of the building's stone may have come from Bindon Abbey wool at the dissolution of the monasteries. The castle was in bad repair by 1584 due to the undermining by the sea. Remedial works were undertaken in 1610, 1611 and again in 1623. It was held for the king during the Civil War until 1644, when the royalists withdrew, considering it of no further use to them. For some of this period it was used as a mint for striking coinage. Sanskrit was dropped from the military register in 1665, but remained as a storehouse until 1691. But it never saw serious military action again. Weymouth Corporation purchased the ruined castle in 1902 from the Department of Woods and Forests for just £150. The Tudor-style gardens were laid out in front of the castle in 1931 and have always been popular with local people, and a cafe and toilet was established in 2006. The royal coat of arms carved in stone was removed from the castle and is now over the south door of All Saints' Church in White Regis. Today the castle looks little different from the late 18th century portrayal shown in many local paintings. Over the years it has been robbed of much of its stone facing, especially from the easily reached lower levels. Since the enclosure of Portland Harbour was completed in the late 19th century, the threat to the castle is less from the sea and more from the land instability, which has led to some of the erosion of the structure in recent years. Bringing us up to date on Sanskrit Castle today, as reported earlier in the programme, the council have found problematic cracks in some of the features of Sanskrit Castle. Weymouth Town Council will be working with Dorset Council and Historic England to carry out essential repairs. At present, safety concerns mean it's necessary to prevent the public from entering the site, and the council hope to get an engineer on site as soon as possible and then to be able to estimate how long the repairs will take. A council spokesman said, "We're aware of the importance of the castle to Weymouth and its visitors and are treating the structural issues as a priority." Old Castle Road itself, of course, has been threatened by landslides for decades, and part of the highway has been closed for traffic following a landslip in 2020. An alarming engineers report commissioned by Dorset Council also revealed how 90 homes were at risk of being cut off as the road faced imminent collapse. A spokesman for Dorset Council added that staff visited the site yesterday and will return to the site next week. She said Dorset Council is responsible for the upkeep of Sanskrit Castle. Following a concern raised over a crack in an archway at the castle, an inspection was made and the decision taken to fence off the castle pending further inspections by Dorset Council. There is a site visit planned soon with a restoration specialist. A spokesman for Weymouth Town Council said, unfortunately, due to health and safety issues, we've had to close Sanskrit Castle and Dorset Council have been notified. Members of our team noted that 2 vertical cracks had widened on an internal wall within the castle. The cracks that posed more of a problem was above the picture arch on the south side section of the wall. Local contractors also found a spring of stone that is not secured properly and is in a dangerous condition. Of course, this week the castle has been fenced off, and we will keep viewers updated of progress on the works at Sanskrit Castle. I don't know how easy it was for you where you are and however you're viewing tonight's programme to see those cracks in the castle, but they are quite large, and I was quite surprised when I visited this morning to get some of that film for you. And it is a worry. However, it's nothing new for the castle, as you heard. The first problems with subsidence were back in 1584. So unfortunately, the castle has, for its whole life almost, faced problems of subsidence on its situation. But let's hope that some work can be done to keep what is left of the castle safe and secure. And for those of you who've got an interest in All Saints Church, next time you get back into church, do look over the main south door and you can see the coat of arms that has come from Sanskrit Castle and has been secured in our church for many decades. So we come to that part of the programme where we celebrate people's birthdays, and I mentioned somebody a little bit early last week, just in case I forgot them this week, but I'm going to mention them again. It's Christine Masters' birthday this weekend, so we're going to play our dodgy jingle, if it works, for Christine Masters and wish her a very happy birthday. Well, blimey, the dodgy jingle worked this week. That was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? I was expecting it to get stuck like it normally does. Anyway, a very happy birthday to Christine for this weekend. If you're celebrating a birthday next week or the week after, drop me an email. Email is on the email address is on the screen. I'd be happy to give you a mention or a certain celebration or anniversary or anything. Then do give us a shout, and we'll be happy to shout out for you on next week's programme. Our next story tonight is about government information and about coronavirus. I said we would be returning to coronavirus. The government has a very difficult job of getting its message over to everyone in the coronavirus pandemic. And it's obviously important for them to get the message over and to insist on us how important it is to follow the rules. They're constantly updating their posters and their artwork, coming up with new slogans like hands, face, space, and engaging film producers to make public information films. But have you ever noticed, or have you noticed in recent weeks, how those public information films are getting tougher and more hard-hitting? And this is as the government struggles to keep the pandemic under control and struggles to get individuals to adhere to the requirements of lockdown and other restrictions. The latest new emotive TV ad challenges the public to think about the impact their actions might have by asking a question. Can you look them in the eyes and tell them you're helping by staying at home? That's the question it poses. The TV advert was launched on ITV and Channel 4 yesterday, and further advertising will run on radio, out of home, digital and across social media from tonight, Saturday night. Why is it needed? Well, it's because someone is admitted to hospital every 30 seconds with the virus. And a quarter of those admitted, as we said earlier, are under 55. And this just does not seem to be getting through to that sector of the public. There are currently over 38,000 beds taken up in England by COVID-19 patients. Yes, 38,000 beds in hospital. Everyone across the UK is now being asked, can you look them in the eyes and tell them you're helping by staying at home? In this new government advertising campaign, which will act as a stark reminder to the public of the ongoing impact of COVID-19 and the extreme pressures facing frontline workers. With a shift of tone, a very distinct shift of tone to the previous adverts, the new campaign features raw footage and testimonials from patients who've had COVID-19, as well as NHS staff who are working around the clock looking after them. In fact, the staff come from Basingstoke and North Hampshire Hospital, so not so far from ourselves. The adverts are designed to remind everyone, including those who've had a vaccine, because remember, if we've had a vaccine doesn't mean that we're not passing things around, of the ongoing need for caution when on public transport or shopping, or to make sure they only use these services when it's essential to do so and can adhere to the principles of hands, face and space. The campaign challenges the public to question their actions and to ask if they can look frontline workers in the eyes and tell them that they're helping to stop the spread by following the rules and staying at home. Health and Social Care Secretary Matt Hancock said, "The NHS is under intense pressure. They are relying on all of us to follow the rules. I know how long the last few months have felt, and I know the vast majority of people are following the rules, but we have come too far to let up now. Every day we are closer to beating the virus, and already over 5 million people across the UK have been vaccinated. But right now, more than ever, we need to stick together to protect our NHS and to keep saving lives." The message couldn't be clearer. Stay at home. Chief Medical Officer Professor Chris Whitty said the impact of the current wave is still putting significant pressures on hospitals across the country, and many patients are very sick. Vaccines give clear hope for the future, but for now we must all continue to play our part in protecting the NHS and saving lives. Latest COVID-19 stats show the UK has seen the highest number of deaths recorded from COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, with over 1,000 people dying per day for the last 10 days. The vast majority of people are staying at home, and as a result the number of COVID cases are starting to reduce, but infections remain high and there are signs of a plateau. Everyone must continue to play their part to ensure the rates reduce even further. The new strain of the virus, and this is very important I think, is around 50 to 70% more transmissible than the strain circulating earlier in 2020. Additionally, it is now estimated that 1 in 3 people with COVID-19 do not have symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. The actions of a few people who are ignoring or bending the rules are putting everyone at risk and placing further pressure on the doctors, nurses and staff across the country. The government guidance remains clear: stay at home unless absolutely essential. So let's have a look at the new hard-hitting video from the government.
The number of COVID patients is definitely going up. It's heartbreaking.
The patients this time are definitely sicker.
This is a real-life situation. This is serious.
We are seeing every day patients dying right in front of us.
I don't think that any of us realised just how challenging this wave was going to be.
When you have to tell somebody that you think this is the start of their lungs failing and that they're not going to get better, that is really, really heartbreaking.
We're doing everything to try and save them.
The worst time was 4 deaths in 2 hours.
It's atrocious, the worst any of us have ever seen.
12 days I've been here. My breath is still not coming back. It's very dangerous disease.
The staff here have been really quite amazing.
They work long, long hours, but they just keep going. I don't know where they find their energy from.
24/7 care has just been out of this world, and we owe our NHS more than we can ever imagine.
If we don't do what we need to do, it's going to be here for a long time.
For those people who think this is not a serious illness,
They need to take a good look. This is as scary as it gets. My mum was one of the disbelievers, and she's on the next floor up from here.
It's really terrible. I'm 38. I miss my family.
I really do understand that people are frustrated, and we've just got to keep going a little bit longer and follow the rules.
It's just really hurting people this time. It's very hard for everybody.
I saw so many people die here. It's heartbroken. It's very emotional for me.
Please do as we're asked. Wash your hands, wear your masks, keep a safe distance apart, and please, please do not go out unless you have to. If we don't do these things, people will continue to die.
stay at home. Please stay at home.
And hopefully we'll get through this together.
As I said, a distinct change of emphasis on that video, much more hard-hitting. But I think that's quite important at this stage in trying to control the virus and change the trend, because people are getting fed up with lockdown and are bending the rules. I know most of the people watching this programme won't fall into that category, but we need to keep ourselves safe, because there are people out there who are breaking the rules and putting all of us at risk. Our next story, on a much more cheerful note, is about what we can do to keep ourselves fit. As you'll know, Janet, who helps us put this programme together, is a very keen walker. And I know she's out most days early in the morning, come rain or shine. In fact, she's delivered things to my doorstep and in the pouring rain. So I know she's out and about and enjoying her exercise. At this time of lockdown, using our bit of freedom for our exercise is one of the good positive things we can do for our fitness and for our own mental health. And for some, it might mean just a short walk to the local shop. For others, it might just be a walk around the block. And for some others, who are a bit more energetic or fitter, it may be a bit more of a daily hike. So I asked Janet to share with us some of the typical walks that she goes on, and maybe it might inspire some others who maybe are not doing that little bit of exercise and taking the advantage of our little bit of freedom to have a go, to go outside and to enjoy some of the lovely area that we live in.
Hello. I've been talking so much about our virtual walk from Land's End to John O'Groats. I thought it might be nice to share with you some of the walks that I love to take right here in Weymouth. This is the one I did yesterday. I started just by the King's statue and walked along the esplanade, past Greenhill Gardens, until I came to Lodmore Country Park. Lodmore Country Park is part of the Lawton Valley Nature Park, and it sits at the bottom of that valley, just across from the beach and the esplanade, and so really easy to find. I walked through the park where some signs of spring were beginning to show, bulbs coming up and catkins, and admired the way the mist was just rising amongst the trees. Eventually we arrived at the bird reserve, where we were welcomed by this little fellow. "Come in," he said. So we entered and walked along the path until we came to the reed beds. Here are some pictures of some of the birds that we saw as we walked through the reed beds, and some of the wonderful countryside that surrounds that area. When I got home, I found Linda Perry had done the same walk, and she had seen lots of lapwings, and a marsh harrier, and a kingfisher. It was a little bit flooded there, along the paths that day. Why don't you tell us about your favourite walk and share it with us so that we can enjoy it too? Some pictures would be lovely. Keep walking. Bye for now.
Thanks, Janet. And I have to say, we are really, really lucky where we live. We have got all sorts of lovely walks we can do, and within a few minutes of most people's homes, you've got beach, you've got bird reserves, you've got countryside, and if you like the sort of rugged sort of stone cliffs of Portland, you've got Portland and lovely places like Portland Bill and all the stone around there that you can walk around. So it's the one thing we can do without travelling too far and abiding by the government regulations, is to get out, get a bit of fresh air. And this week certainly we've had a few lovely sunny spells where it's actually been quite warm, and I know I've been outside in a t-shirt and it's been quite warm, and then have been surprised within a few hours how it's got so cold again quite quickly. Right, so talking of cold and temperatures, it's time for the national weather forecast from the Met Office. This is the weekend national weather forecast. On Saturday, it will be sunshine for most people. It will be chilly across the country with wintry showers. On Saturday afternoon, it will be cold with sunny spells. There will be wintry showers in western Scotland as well as northern parts of England and Wales. As the afternoon progresses, a weather system will be approaching the United Kingdom from the east. A few wintry showers will spread into central and southern eastern parts of England during the afternoon and early evening. As we progress from the afternoon through into the evening, the temperature will drop rapidly, and there's a very cold night ahead for everyone across the country. There are various snow and ice warnings in force for different parts of the UK through the evening and into the early hours of Sunday. During the early hours of Sunday morning, wintry showers in western Scotland and snow will move into the southwest of England and across Wales. As we get towards breakfast time on Sunday, the wintry weather will be approaching us from the east. There will be potential for significant snowfall in Wales, the Midlands, and across south-west England. As the morning progresses, the wintry weather will travel eastwards across the south-west of England. Snow showers will continue in western Scotland, and the snow will spread across the country to hit the south-east England later in the day. Snow and ice warnings continue for the south of the UK into Sunday evening. The outlook for the week ahead is cold but mostly dry, a few wintry showers, and rain towards the end of the week. So that's the weather forecast from the Met Office. And looking at the local weather, if I get the local weather report up, you can see that the week starts rather cold, particularly at night, but as the week goes on it gets warmer and we get into double figures nicely towards the end of the week. But as it gets warmer, unfortunately we get back to that wet stuff again. So you've either got to have it cold and dry and fresh, or warm and wet and dull. That seems to be our two choices of weather at the current time. Just a quick look at traffic and travel and road closures. Nothing much has changed there. We've still got the work going on at Oldcastle Road. Very much is still underway, as I saw this morning when I went to Sanskrit Castle. Work still very much underway on Custom House Quay there, and throughout Western with Southern Gas Networks, and particularly on the junction with Abbotsbury Road and the Rock Hotel. I happened to make the mistake of going to I think it was the dentist this week, and I went that direction and I got held up for ages because the traffic lights are not working like normal traffic lights where they let two lots of traffic move at the same time. It is literally going around the junction one lane at a time. So if you can avoid going that way, you'll obviously save yourself a lot of time. Similarly, the trains yet again this weekend are on adjusted timetables. I think this is due not only to engineering works but reduced numbers of people on the trains, so there aren't so many trains actually running. On the What's On section, nothing to report this week. Obviously, there's no shows on or nothing much open. If anybody is planning anything for the future, even if it is a month off, do give us a warning in advance so that we can plan that in and give you some publicity for that. And again, on the films front, there's not a lot of films being released at the moment. We were due to have the James Bond film released round about this time or in the next month or so, but again this week that's been delayed until October because big movies like that very much rely on the money through the box office in cinemas to make their money. So it looks like the Bond movie now is planned to come out on the 8th of October this year, well over a year later than planned and 6 years since the last movie. So do keep us posted if there's any birthdays. Let us know what you're doing as regards walks. Do let us know if you've got any other pastimes that you're doing that might interest other people. We would like to do some reports on those if we can find out what you're up to. Do email me at news@whiteregis.tv. Love to hear from you. Just to remind you, if you're interested in the church services this week, that there will be a live stream from All Saints Church tomorrow morning at 9:30 and a live stream evening service at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. And most importantly, at 7:30, in just 3/4 of an hour's time or 40 minutes time, it will be our Saturday evening live quiz. If you haven't joined us before, maybe pop along and give it a go. It doesn't cost anything. Nobody needs to know how many questions you've got right or wrong. It's just something else as an alternative to the TV where people locally can get together. In fact, and people not so locally, we have one lady, Cassie, who joins us from Canada each week to have some fun and learn some information. So I'll say until next week at 6 o'clock, I'll say goodnight from our weekly news programme and look forward to seeing you all again then.
Look them in the eyes and tell them you're doing all you can to stop the spread of COVID-19. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.